I hate it, but yeah. Hello, everybody. I think a little bit different. I'm just going to kind of position what I'm going to talk to you about today, because what I'm going to say is a bit different to all of the other speakers. So obviously I'm from a housing association, which a lot of you may know, Home Group. And what I'm going to talk to you about is our journey. And the title that I wanted to give it is kind of warts and all, because we absolutely haven't nailed it. And we're on this really kind of long path in terms of what we're trying to achieve, and in terms of our digital strategy and our strategy as an organisation. We're kind of only 1 out of the 5 years into it. We've done a lot wrong. We've got a lot on the horizon that we've massively changed. So we've gone off track hugely. But we're trying to get there for the right reasons, so kind of bear with me. This is our kind of crazy story, and the reasons why we've made some of the decisions that we have, hoping to try and get the best outcome for the customer. So in my role, I am the operational manager in the contact centre for all of the digital channels. So I manage a team who deal with all of our social media, email and live chat, as well as all of the digital strategic projects that we run in the contact centre. So a very kind of varied role in a, obviously, as you will all be aware of, a very challenging sector, which is always kind of impacted by uncertainty and tends to be quite far behind in terms of tech and innovation. We have a lot of challenges, which I'm going to talk to you about today, and some of the things that we're trying to do to overcome them. So yeah, this is our kind of story. So we set out on our digital journey at the beginning of last year, so beginning of 2018, and we have a 5-year project, which is to try and achieve 4 strategic goals, which I'll talk you through. But just a bit of a background of who we are, just in case anyone's not familiar. So we're one of the UK's largest housing providers of housing, healthcare, and we also develop and sell houses. So we have leasehold customers, supported customers, and rent customers. So a very varied customer base, a varied customer that we have to try and cater for. Lots of challenges in terms of catering for those different types of customers through one digital means, in one kind of service centre. And we've got a large amount of, so we've got 55,000 properties spread all over the UK. So that's our rental properties. So obviously the development and the support figures are outside of that. So our strategy was set, like I said, at the beginning of 2018, and it was very, very, very ambitious. So we have already got plans to potentially tweak some of our strategy, purely because what we were aiming for was simply not quite achievable at the time. So to build 10,000 new homes across the UK, to be market leaders in new models of care, to provide 90% of our customer services digitally, which is extremely ambitious when at the time of benchmarking the project at the beginning, we only had 30% of our customers' email addresses due to a number of issues. And to be 20% more efficient. So, like I said, the strategy was defined at the beginning of 2018, and the most challenging out of the 4 parts of the strategy is definitely the digital, trying to get customers to use our digital services online. What we actually aim to do is to get 90% of our customers using the digital service 80% of the time, because we know that we're absolutely not going to cater for everybody all of the time. Due to the nature of our business, especially in the supported sector, we need to be there for our customers, and we know that a digital service won't fit for them. So we're not trying to cater for that, but 90% is a hugely ambitious figure. So the things that we set out to achieve was try and improve customer experience and engagement, to actually build a digital capability, because the digital capability that we have currently, because we haven't fully rolled out our digital service across the country yet. So the one that's still available for the masses is very poor. So we wanted to build something digitally capable that didn't exclude customers. We took a web build approach rather than an app development to start with. We wanted to try and get that service right before we rolled it out and be inclusive to all of our different customer types. And ultimately our strapline as an organisation is to aid independence and aspirations, and we're kind of really, really bad for historically overhand holding customers that don't need it. Our customers told us, we want to be more independent. We want to have the ability to be able to do things conveniently on a night time. We don't want to be restricted by your opening hours. Give it to us. And they've kind of been screaming that at us for quite a long time. Obviously, we wanted to increase innovation. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about some challenges that we face with legacy systems. Everyone will be familiar with those awful things. We have plenty of them, and they're very inflexible, and they do have a big impact on us trying to move forward. Our pilot at the moment that we're experiencing is kind of like the Fred Flintstone analogy, where it's all kind of pretty at the top, and then underneath the legs are going mental, because we're in this chaotic period where we're trying to innovate, but we're trying to make sure that the legacy systems can keep up with it, and it is a bit of chaos. And obviously we want to increase efficiency, but for us that's kind of the last in terms of the aims. We want to see the fruition of that once we've actually built something that does have an impact on the customer experience. So as anyone who's starting out on a digital transformation journey knows, one of our biggest challenges, which we were really quite naive about at the start, was actually not just trying to shift customer behaviour, but trying to change our culture internally. That was a huge, big thing for us, where we've got a lot of people, especially in our contact centre, who are really quite nervous about promoting digital services because they may have been impacted from a previous role. They may have been made redundant because automation was brought in, for example, to replace part of their job. And we couldn't understand why our sign-up rate was so low. So 6 months into us piloting in a region, our sign-up rate was 10%. We didn't really get why that had happened. Until we started to delve into it, started to talk to our colleagues a bit more and find out what really was the kind of sticking point. Why is this not working? And a lot of it was not just kind of reluctance to talk about it, because actually if I don't talk about this service and I don't promote it, I'll still have a job. It was also confidence. They didn't feel confident in being able to talk about it. They didn't necessarily have the skills to be able to talk about digital services. They'd use them every day in their life, but actually to try and promote them, they felt like it was a bit too salesy, and that's obviously not the environment that we wanted to create for them. A lot of them had come from that, and were trying to get away from it. So it was a really, really big kind of key struggle for us, which I'll go into detail a little bit more about. So one of the first things that we did, and that we're kind of really, really passionate about, which underpins the full strategy for us, is involving our customers. So we have a customer involvement network that we run nationally, and every decision pretty much that we make in the organisation is informed by customers, whether that's recruiting key people into the organisation, reviewing job descriptions, building customer journey maps, designing anything big that we actually release publicly has to go by our customer panel. And a lot of the work that I did with the project initially was going out into the field, sitting in our customers' properties with them, giving them pieces of tech and understanding what is it you actually want from a digital service. We think we know what you want, but we didn't actually know what they wanted. So we kind of presented them with this beautiful design of what we thought was appropriate for them, and they ripped it apart, which is what we wanted, because we did 12 iterations before we even got to the launch of the home screen. So it was very kind of time intensive. But in terms of the customer journey map, we built this with customers, so we wanted to split their journey into four. So it's got 4 key areas, and then the final piece is either moving forward or buying their property. We wanted to make each part relatable for them and accessible for them. But the first thing we didn't want to do, which it would make sense to start at the beginning, which is actually finding us. We didn't want to spend a lot of money and time on trying to get more customers. We wanted to make sure that we could service the customers that we have properly before we went down that. So we decided to start on steps 3 and 4, which was moving in and starting the service, and living in and progressing the service. And I kind of will stress, this is still an aspirational map. We haven't achieved this, and there's only kind of 1 or 2 of them that we've dipped into. But in terms of how we actually got this established, it was all informed by customers. But the reality was we didn't really know what they wanted until they sat down with us and kind of went through and gave us a bit of a reality check, if you like. So one of the things that we did, apart from going out and sitting in customers' properties, we also did focus groups with them. We did lots of interviews to try and really get to the crux of exactly what it is they wanted. Like I say, we did loads of different design iterations, and we're still continuing to change stuff. But one of the biggest things that we spent the most time on was actually what product do we use to try and build a digital service for our customers. Is there something that we can buy off the shelf? We spent about 12 months trying to find a product that would fit our rented, supported and leasehold customers, and couldn't find anything that was going to be flexible enough for us to be able to evolve or adapt based on their needs and their very diverse needs. So we decided to build the whole thing in-house, which is obviously a very expensive and arguably a risky option. And any of you who read the BBC News last week will have noticed that we were victims of a data breach, and partly as a result of bringing that skill set in-house. But the main reason why we wanted to do that was ultimately we wanted to have more control to get the best product at the end of it, and we don't regret it. And it has been a really kind of a very disruptive journey. We have our goal to get there, and we're building in an agile way. So we have 2-week development sprints. At the end of each sprint, we give everything we do to customers to test. If they don't like it, it doesn't get released. It's a very, very time-consuming exercise, which has meant that our timeframes have elongated enormously. What we thought we'd be able to deliver in 6 months is taking 18 months, for example. But actually, we think we'll end up with a better product. We're trying to change and keep up with technology as well as it's being released, so we're not just on this kind of waterfall plan where we'll deliver something at the end of it. We're trying to make sure that the way that we get there is agile. We wanted to start small, so obviously we're a UK widespread organisation. So we started in the northwest of the country. We thought we'd pick a challenging area in terms of weather, in terms of mobile signal, in terms of we had the most stock in that area. So in terms of the numbers, they were going to be biggest for us, and we wanted to start with one team, one set of contractors, and release something out there that wasn't perfect. It was a little bit rough, and just see what they did. And it was really, really well received, but we did spend a lot of time, and it was very kind of time intensive, making sure that we embedded that, and we knew that that wasn't feasible to roll out across the country. So it was kind of like our test phase. We spent 6 months in that test phase. And we definitely failed fast. So our approach was always think big, start small, fail. And learn from it, and make sure that you do learn from it and you don't make the same mistakes. And we've done loads wrong, but actually what we've got, what I'm sure that we've got right now is a much better user-friendly product than we had in our aspirational vision at the beginning. So where we're at the minute, we've launched in 3 different regions across the country. So our next launch, we've just launched in Scotland. Our next launch is next week in the Yorkshire region. And one of the key challenges has been obviously the digital culture, not just within the contact centre, but within the regional teams. But trying to make sure that when it's rolled out in a way that doesn't create a monster. It's controlled, allowing it to be flexible enough, which we found really difficult. Trying to make sure that our contact centre staff keep up to date with all of the changes in technology as well, because it's the whole IT customer service relationship. The customer service teams and the IT teams in our organisation do sit very separately. So it's been quite revolutionary for us to try and integrate them, and there was quite a bit of resistance at the beginning, but we are getting there. But it's a really, really long road for us. So we're trying to aim for national rollout by the end of this year, which is really ambitious because we've still got 4 regions to roll out into. And one of them is quite a significant region, which is the London area. So as I've already said, our approach was to build in-house. So we recruited UX designers, testers, front and back end developers, and also a team of customer testers in. And it obviously went through robust testing. Every feature that was delivered every 2 weeks before it was developed would go through customer testing. We also had customer feedback. So any feedback that was given within that 2-week period would potentially influence the next 2-week sprint, which is hence why it was quite chaotic in terms of if... so one of the barriers that we found when we first launched was customers were falling over on the sign-up. I mean, that's like the basics. It's getting them into it. So we had loads of barriers, which is probably why the take-up rate was so low as well. And we ended up completely rewriting the sign-up process as a result of the customer feedback. We tried to go for more secure and less user-friendly, because obviously they don't kind of sit nicely on a scale. But it just meant that it was too much work for people. So what we thought we'd do is take all of the work for them, register them, and then give it to them, rather than have this self-registration, which we're really, really struggling with. I don't know whether anyone in the room has cracked it yet, but our payment provider is AllPay. And one of the things that we really struggle with is trying to get customers to identify their payment and their tenancy and joining them together. It's just, we've spoken to quite a lot of housing associations, and nobody that we've spoken to seems to have cracked it. So that's our big kind of hurdle to get over, is how do we make it so that people can register for this and we don't have to register and then invite them and have that additional hurdle. But the agile delivery method definitely helps with that. And customers really like the fact that they can give a bit of feedback, and within several weeks, something's actually changed for them. So that's definitely the bonus of starting small and kind of keeping it small. So our challenges. So we have had a significant number of challenges which we face every day. So our customer base is less likely than the UK average to use digital services. We have quite a lot of research to back this up, and went out, kind of dipped our toe in the water to find out what skills do our customers need, what are the barriers that they can overcome to try and get them onto this platform. A lot of them didn't have devices, didn't have the access, so we were like, how can we give them the access to the services, but also how can we then educate them to use it? And that was a huge barrier. So one of the things that we've just started piloting in the last couple of months is we're doing a digital skills pilot with our Scottish customers, where we actually go out into the field. We have like a hub that's available for them they can come into. It's quite similar to the Barclays Digital Eagle concept, where we will try and educate them, because otherwise we're never going to be able to change customer behaviour if they don't have the skills to be able to do it. So that was a huge area that was lacking for us. But not just that, the colleague piece as well. So being able to have colleagues that are really comfortable with digital technology and can talk to a customer about something so simple as how to set up a bank account. I mean, obviously we have lots of customers on universal credit. It's a key requirement for you to be able to be registered and setting up an email address. But actually we found we had a huge gap in terms of the colleagues that we had in the contact centre with those skills. So we've established a digital champions network within the organisation who can act as buddies for anybody else. So any colleagues who might not feel comfortable talking to customers about digital technology can go to one of these people to try and help them. We've just launched it in the last 6 weeks. We've had quite a lot of good feedback from colleagues, but in terms of actually making them feel more reassured and more confident in what they're saying to customers, it's still a really big challenge for us. Data and legacy systems. So our housing system is 15 years behind the current version. It's a one-off piece of software that is horrendous, and trying to create a new housing CRM at the same time as managing all of our current customers is, again, really challenging for us. We've kind of done this in 2 separate parts, so that's why we're piloting the digital account rather than replacing what we have, because we can't do that at the moment because all of our data sits on our kind of legacy housing system, which anyone's familiar with Open Door, I'm not sure, but yeah, we're 15 years behind. and they release a version a year. So yeah, 15 versions is not great. But in terms of our data quality has really been quite poor. We made some key significant changes in the contact centre and on the ground to try and improve our data quality. So more robust data checks, making sure that we're emphasising more on our digital account at sign-up, at viewings, at our feedback visits when we go every 4 weeks after a customer's moved in. We're kind of making sure that we're planting the seed in the customer's mind, and we have found that has helped us. So all in all, a year later, we are now at a 20% sign-up rate. So it has doubled, but it's still nowhere near what we'd like it to be. Obviously, one of the other challenges, apart from data and legacy systems, is the rise of welfare reform. So as we roll out more universal credit, we estimate that if we don't have a better digital service available, our call volumes will double within the next 6 months, which is obviously just not feasible. Our customers want to talk to us and they love to ring us, so it is a real challenge for us to try and shift their behaviour. So the impact on the customer experience, we've never given customers a digital footprint before, so this is kind of quite key for them. We wanted to give them somewhere they could go to view their tenancy references, to view if they live in a communal building, to view their fire evacuation route, to view anything that was specific to their tenancy, as well as being able to do all the stuff that they're relying on us at the moment for. When we spoke to a number of other housing associations, there was this kind of, when we were mapping this out, there was very much, especially to do with payments and direct debits, there was very much a reluctance to give the customer the responsibility to be able to set up, amend and cancel direct debit without it being sort of a formal request. So that was a key tick for us at the beginning. One of the first things that we did, because we launched with payments only. All customers need to make a payment. Not every customer needed to report repair. So that was kind of the rationale behind it. And we gave customers the ability to be able to set up end-to-end a direct debit for any amount, to amend it again, and then to cancel it and change the frequency and all of that. And then afterwards, someone will review that to make sure that actually they've set that up for the correct amount. That's fine, but someone will do that at the end, and that was really well received by customers. Was okay, you're giving me some responsibility to be able to do this whole end-to-end process myself, rather than just making a request to do it. It sounds like a really basic thing, but it did seem we got a lot of really good feedback from customers from it, and it gives them a digital footprint of the changes that they've made. Like I said, we have 2-week development sprints, so the backlog, our development backlog in our IT team is informed by customer feedback. We have a load of customer colleagues who work in that department as well, and we have the customer involvement group, so it's really heavily customer driven. Again, it encourages independence and aspirations, because we are now able to give them the ability to perform transactions outside of our opening hours, which was a huge thing for them. And just being more confident in terms of digital services and understanding what it is that we're trying to get from them, instead of them just thinking, you're forcing me down this route. We've left it as a channel of choice, and I don't think we'll ever do that. And I know some other housing associations have quite controversially gone down a really heavy-handed, like, you will go onto our digital channels approach. We just can't do that because of our customer base. So it will always be a channel of choice for us, which makes it even harder for us to try and encourage them to get onto it. But at the end of the day, we've just got to build something that they prefer to use. It's so good that they actually prefer to use it. So the biggie, the impact on the contact centre. So like I said, we got quite a shock in terms of the way that it was received. We thought everyone would be really excited about it, coming into it quite naively, and we did get a lot of resistance in the contact centre at first, especially considering we are trying to innovate at the same time as keeping up with the legacy systems. So it was very chaotic, and trying to invite somebody into this exciting world where you do have to do a lot of admin tasks, because they are quite backward, while we're trying to make sure that, so if a customer changes their phone number and they click save, they think that's right, but actually our legacy housing system doesn't allow anything to talk to it. you can pull information from it, but you can't talk to it. So that generates a task that comes to my team, who have to manually go up and update their mobile number. But from a customer experience point of view, you're doing what they've asked, and they don't know that has a time delay on it, potentially. But from our end, because we don't have the automation in place for certain things at the minute, it is very backwards. So that had a real impact in terms of how it was received. What we're trying to do is we're doing loads of off-site training. We've got some external providers in to try and really, we've never done a piece around cross-selling our contact centre services before. We've never done anything around encouraging customers to use digital services apart from like an add-on at the end. It's almost like a complementary. So we're trying to integrate that into our telephony conversations, especially where it's to do with rent, which is something that they have more. I mean, a customer in arrears, it's actually a dream for them. They can go on, make a payment, set up a direct debit, and they don't have to get hassled by anybody. It's trying to make sure that you get across to them the benefits, but at the same time trying to make sure that our colleagues feel confident in talking about it, which was a real thing. But the transition from legacy system into new system will continue to haunt us for potentially another 6 to 12 months until we actually are able to get somewhere where we do feel really comfortable that we're on kind of a straight path in terms of all of the setup technology. We've got the pretty bit at the front, but in terms of actually what it can do, our customers have told us they want the DPD repairs experience. They want to be able to track their repair, recall their repair if they're not happy with it. So one of the things we're trying to do is not wait too long before we release something. So we don't want to release something that we think's perfect and then to have to go and redo it, because we'll in 3 years' time we'll still not have anything released. We're trying to do it every 2 to 4 weeks, little bits at a time. But at the same time, we want to get it right, because we need to meet the kind of, Joe was talking a lot about earlier about exceeding customer expectations. Our customer expectations are massive, and we haven't been able to meet them in the past. So it's trying to get to that stage where you can, and it is a real challenge, and it will continue to be a real challenge for us. So yeah, before I go any further, I'm happy to take if anyone's got any questions that they want to ask at this point.
I heard there was lots of nodding, and I heard people kind of agreeing with some of the things that you were saying there, Laura. So anybody want to ask how she did it? Was it here? Sorry, maybe here at the back first. Sorry, just.
Thank you. I work for South Cambs District Council.
Okay.
At the moment, we're rolling out a customer portal.
Okay.
And our housing department they're basically getting a new housing product at the same time. Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice? Because obviously I want to try and join up with the rollout of the product, and I want to make the customer journey as good as possible, like digitally.
I mean, again, I'm going to say openly we haven't nailed it by any means, and we are on a massive journey ourselves. But from what we've learned, because that's kind of the key bits, is we try and do lessons learned really regularly. So every 6 weeks we'll have like a lessons learned exercise, whether it's with the development or whether it's within operations, and we all sit together and work out what did we do, what worked, what didn't work. And I think unless you really robustly do that, it's so easy to just get really carried away. But one of the biggest things that impacted us, which was kind of a real eye-opener, was involving customers. Until we actually regularly got something in front of them, for them to, like, giving them something and asking them to try and break it was really satisfying for them, because they spent so long really trying to get to the bottom of it. And we then got more buy-in. We then got more customer ambassadors who would talk to other customers about the service. But our biggest issue at the moment is the fact that we don't have a repairs offering on there. So you can talk to us on live chat. So we've got a live chat option, and we've got a help request option, which is there if we're not available. And another thing as well is, like, how do you support these customers through these services? So we couldn't find a best practice approach to supporting them. So a lot of organisations within a digital account, not in housing, use knowledge. So they'll use knowledge portals, customer and colleague integrated knowledge portals. Our knowledge base wasn't good enough because of the vast area of our customer, because literally we have the 3 huge customer segments to tackle, and they do overlap. We get supported customers going into rented, going into leasehold, so it's trying to work out that journey. But we couldn't find anyone who had kind of nailed the how often are you there for them, how do you assist them. So when we first started, we went with customers told us they wanted a 24/7 live chat and telephony support, which is just not going to happen, because that doesn't encourage them to self-serve. It's really contradictory to what we're trying to get them to do. So we went with a live chat option and a telephony transfer option, which was, so if a colleague in the customer service centre that they'd come through to on a normal line saw that they had been invited to or had accepted their signed up to their digital account, they get transferred to a dedicated team who would then try and educate and guide them to make sure that actually, did you realise next time you can do this yourself? But again, it's a very expensive exercise, because we have as we're rolling it out, you're in one region potentially. So we were in one region for the first 6 weeks. We had 30 people using it. I had a team of 6 people sat from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. waiting for these 30 people. We were lucky if we got one, but it was trying to set the precedent that actually, if one of those people came in and we weren't available, we failed. So it was really expensive and very time consuming at the beginning and massive overkill. But what we found is now we can establish trends. We know actually within 9 till 6 or 8 till 6 is the main time that they'll speak to us. And for emergencies, they'll still ring us. We've like one customer, and I loved it. They told us, you wouldn't go online to book an ambulance. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. If there's an emergency and if your ceilings come through and it's pouring with water, we still want you to ring, obviously. But we also want to give you something that's easy to use for those non-emergency situations. But involving them, we got so many gems from the insight, and I think we will end up with a better product because we've involved them.
So I'm kind of curious, is anybody else doing focus groups like that for your customer contact experience? Yeah, you're doing focus groups. Anybody else? Yeah. I think you had a question here next anyway. So maybe while you've maybe got the microphone, you might share some of your experience of focus groups.
Oh. Well, anything you wanted to do, I thought it was interesting in the previous, where it was, it's great to have the customer side and the IT, but we're still professionals, and it's about not making assumptions, and it's about always asking them what they want, and almost for me about having the baseline. So you make something as easy as the least able person, the least digitally savvy person, rather than always using the people who know exactly what to do, and then customers are lost. So, yeah, our focus where we work is always about asking customers and making sure that we get it right from their point of view.
Thank you.
But
yeah, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, you started to touch on that. You started on your journey with repairs, which is something that we're also starting. I just wanted to know how far you've got, and what pitfalls you've encountered, because obviously we have to.
So I think the biggest challenge for us in the repairs journey is the fact that we use it's a system issue. So we have a large number of contractors throughout the country. We have to integrate with their systems, their booking systems, and immediately from day one we knew that was a huge barrier for us. It wasn't a barrier, it was an obstacle, but a large obstacle for us to try and overcome. So one thing we started with repairs was actually a lot of the time, so when we went through our chat conversations through the digital account, so people actually trying to self-serve their repairs, more than half of them were emergency repairs anyway. So we kind of tried to outline the expectation of, we can deal with this for you now, but it is better for you to call for anything to do with an emergency in future. But the non-emergency stuff was, they didn't necessarily want to talk to us. They just wanted to tell us and for us to do something about it, which is where the help request came in, because we were just going to offer a live chat, but then we started getting a lot of people saying, I don't have time to, I'm just about to do the school run, I don't have time to have a full-on conversation with you. Here's the information about the problem I've got, go fix it. And that was quite a key bit. So when we launched with repairs, and still all we have is the ability for them to report a repair. So we're trying to make sure in the back we can give them a full tracking history of the repair. We want to be able to develop some sort of application we can put on our contractors' phones where it can track to see where they are, which is the ultimate experience that they want. We want them to be able to recall a repair if they don't feel that it's been done to the standard that is acceptable. But we've literally started with just letting them report the repair, and that went down well, but then you get a lot of chases. So like 40% of our repairs contact is chasing. But then we've got a better job to do in terms of managing their expectations, because surely they shouldn't need to chase if we're proactively managing their expectations better. So we're doing loads of stuff behind the scenes to try and crack that, to make sure that we get the most out of this functionality that we've launched. But again, so our priority is getting repairs launched and getting repairs good. But also we have a barrier of getting people registered in the first place, which is the self-serve registration bit, which is kind of overtaking in terms of priority. There's no point in making the whole thing sing and dance if they can't get on it. So that's a big and it's a real head scratcher, because we don't, with the payment provider that we use at the moment, we don't have a solution. We might have to change, but that's all going on in the background.
We've got time for one more quick question. Was it? Yeah, it was a hand here. Yeah. Just wait for the microphone, please. Thank you.
Our contact centre staff do push the self-service option, and we've got probably 2/3 of our customers on it, and they can make payments and they can review their account and all that. But we're not necessarily seeing any reduction in demand at all. What impact have you seen? If anything, we're probably getting more complicated inquiries, particularly with universal credit and people maybe making 2 different payments a month or something like that. But what has the impact been on you in terms of demand?
In terms of telephony, we've seen no reduction in demand at all. But one of the things we have noticed, which we didn't necessarily think that would happen at the beginning, was because we're now giving them, so for example, when they log on to, and I might have a screenshot of the payment page, we give them a rent breakdown and a breakdown of the service charge, and if there's any, so it's on the next page, but basically we give them a breakdown of their rent, any service charges, water charges if it comes to us, that kind of thing. But because we've never given them that information before, unless they're on the phone to us, they've never had it. So because we're almost being so transparent that it's generating new queries. So we found that we're getting new queries about, oh, well, I thought my service charge was £2.85, not £2.87, which we've never had those kind of questions before. So, but in terms of the volumes, we are getting a good amount of people actually self-serving, but nowhere near as many as we'd like. A lot of them still need help because they're coming on to chat to ask us what their balance is. Well, your balance is the thing that's displayed right big front and centre, with a timestamp of, because it'll be like, well, I've just made a payment, why is my balance not updated? And some of it's just educating them and guiding them, and we've got a big piece to do around being able to try and join up our knowledge and the customer knowledge. We're trying to build a customer community online as well to try and help improve our knowledge to do that. But yeah, in terms of demand, telephony has not changed. Obviously, it's the winter period, so, well, just at the start of the winter period, so it's a really bad time to try and benchmark that kind of stuff at the same time as doing a rollout. So we haven't really seen any impact on that, but definitely generated different queries.
Interesting. I would love to let this conversation run because you've got lots of experience to share, and I can tell that everybody is kind of resonating with what Laura is saying. Are you going to be here for the rest of the day?
I'll be here for the next couple of hours. If
okay, so I would advise you to take an opportunity to come and pick her brains about her experience. So, Laura, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.